With the recent Steam release of Touhou 16, I imagine there's at least a few people out there wondering how the hell they are supposed to beat one of these things. The answer? Practice a lot. Well, that's the real answer, but there are a few things you can do to improve a bit. These aren't really tips and tricks or hidden moves or anything, so much as rules of thumb to keep in mind while you're playing. And while I'm using Touhou as an example here, most of these apply to most other shoot-em-ups as well, or even other genres if you get kind of abstract with them. So, Lesson 1. Stop moving. Now, before any of you get all cute with me, what I really mean is stop moving around so much. One of the most common things I see newer players doing is moving all crazy-like around the screen. The thing is, a shoot-em-up is a chaotic system, with as many possible points of failure as there are bullets on screen, and that can be a damn big number. But the dirty little secret of bullet hells is that anywhere from 50 to like 95% of the bullets on screen don't matter. They are there purely for visual effect and pose absolutely no danger to you, as long as you are playing them right. By limiting your movement, you limit your exposure to threats and can spend more time focusing on what matters. Lesson 2. Learn to stream. And I don't mean streaming like this, I mean streaming like this. Now, this is closer to the tips and tricks type of thing, which I said I wasn't going to do, but it's really important to understand if you don't. You'll find many enemies that fire bullets aimed directly at you, and if you're flying around all crazy-like, it tends to look like a chaotic storm of bullshit, which is why Lesson 1 is so important. You can deal with this by rhythmically tapping in one direction, gradually moving along, killing the enemies while their bullets trail or kind of stream in behind you, hence the name. Now, you might wonder what you do when you hit the edge of the screen. In some cases, you can stream upwards, and in fact, with some attacks, you can deal with them by just moving around the field in a circle. However, in the cases where you can't do that, there's a technique where you quickly jump forward, and then cut back through the gap you made in the stream. Takes a bit of finessing, but you get used to it. By the way, in English, I've only ever heard people calling this turning the stream, but the Japanese fandom actually calls it a cutback, which is a soccer term. And I think it's a very appropriate term, so I hope more people use it. Lesson 3. Look ahead of your character. Now, this one is not universally true. Sometimes you might want to dial in on your character and go full tunnel vision, particularly for attacks with slow-moving bullets coming from all directions, like Miko's first spell here. Anecdotally, I find this increases my reaction time, but only to things within a narrow range. Let's look at Kuroneko here as an example. This attack has very fast-moving bullets, and, pause, if you were to only look at this narrow range around your character, there is almost no way you could react to a bullet flying at you in time. However, let's say you shifted your gaze upwards a bit. Now you've given yourself far more time to react if a bullet enters your vision. Of course, this requires you to not be looking at your character, or more importantly your hitbox, and it takes a lot of confidence, or faith, to accurately move your character where you want without looking. But once you get enough practice, you'll start doing it without even thinking about it, really. Lesson 4. Bomb a lot, or not at all. If you ask people, you'll probably get one of two different answers about how you should be using your bombs. Some people will say not using them is a waste. Your bomb counter is reset when you die in Touhou games, so spend them while you got them, right? On the other hand, some people will say that if you just bomb spam your problems away, you'll never learn, you'll never improve. But the real answer is probably all of the above. It is true that to succeed, you have to try. Maybe you've only got a 1% chance to make it through an attack without dying, but the more you try, the more that number goes up. On the other hand, a bomb is almost as good as a life, so dying with like, say, 4 in stock is almost like dying 5 times total. The trick I find is identifying what your goal is. Are you just playing the game to see how you'll do? Or are you going for that 1 credit clear? For me personally, I usually treat the first half of the game as the former, maybe take a few crazy risks here and there, and then if I make it through the back half with good resources, then I get focused. Your exact method might differ, but it's good to know what you're aiming for. Lesson 5. Be aggressive. Okay, stop me if you've heard this one before. You're dodging an attack. It's going pretty well, but you start feeling like you're getting pushed back. Before long, you've got your back to the wall, you're cornered, no room to dodge, and then you die. And you wonder, what went wrong? If that's you, then you need to be more aggressive. First of all, get out of the habit of sitting at the bottom of the screen. I like to be around a quarter to a third of the way up, though it varies by attack and I kinda play it by ear myself. Secondly, if there's a gap in the pattern, don't just wait for it to pass you by. Aggressively move through it. The area behind you is your space to retreat and reposition. The more of it you can get, the more leeway you'll have when you need it, and you will probably need it. I find this to be particularly helpful for diagonal attacks, like Clearwater or Mount Oe, where it takes more time to line yourself up with the gaps. There's also plenty of attacks where your openings can quickly disappear if you don't take the opportunity, so it pays to develop this mentality. By the way, you might have noticed that this kinda conflicts with the first lesson about not moving. I want to reiterate that these are just rules of thumb, not laws that you must follow, and some of these are gonna take more time to get used to than others. This one's near the end because it takes a lot of practice and confidence to instinctively dodge bullets by flying towards them, so don't worry if this one takes a while to take root. And while we're on that note, Lesson 6. Practice a lot. I said it at the beginning, and I meant it. You'd be surprised what you can get used to given enough exposure. I used to think that this section in the PCB final stage was totally impossible. Like, how could any human being do this reliably? But after playing these games on hard or Lunatic enough, much like Goku after experiencing 100 times gravity, anything less than that just feels light. Like it's not even a warm-up. And that's not even me bragging, really. Anyone can get here given enough time. Not to get all motivational speaker on you or anything. And if you're having trouble, don't be afraid to look stuff up. One nice thing about Touhou being so big is that even the most obscure fan games have full playthroughs on YouTube. For example, I thought this part of Mystical Power Plant Extra was nuts. Like, what is this storm of bullshit? But then I saw a playthrough on YouTube and I realized, oh, it's just streaming. If only I had followed my own damn advice, I could have figured that out on my own, but hey, now I know. Oh, and hey, if you need any help with a particular part that you're struggling with maybe, go ahead and ask in the comments. I'll field any questions I can. Likewise, if you've got any advice or tips of your own to share, feel free. All ships rise with the tide, you know? Or, I mean, I guess they're not ships, they're girls, but... Well, anyways, if you like this video and you want to help me make more of this kind of thing, you can check me out on Patreon over here. Otherwise, you can like and comment and subscribe and all that. You probably know the deal by now. Anyway, this is Golden Battler signing out. See you next time.